Niccolò Machiavelli would own every boardroom, control every conversation, and win every power struggle in 2025 without anyone realizing he was even playing the game. The man who wrote The Prince 5 centuries ago understood human nature so deeply that his strategies work better today than they did in Renaissance Italy. Social media, corporate politics, and digital relationships have not changed what drives people. They have simply given Machiavelli more tools to exploit. You will learn 21 specific tactics that Machiavelli would use to gain power in our modern world. These are not philosophical ideas or abstract concepts. These are practical methods for controlling situations, influencing decisions, and positioning yourself as the person others turn to when they need results. Each rule builds on the previous one, creating a complete system for psychological dominance. Never reveal your full capabilities. Machiavelli would walk into today's world of LinkedIn, bragging and Instagram success posts, and do exactly the opposite. Everyone rushes to prove their worth, list their achievements, and show their expertise. This creates targets on their backs and gives competitors blueprints to work against them. Smart power hides its strength until the moment it strikes. You demonstrate competence only when necessary and reveal skills only when doing so serves your immediate purpose. People who cannot measure your full potential cannot prepare adequate defenses against you. Rule 2. Master the art of strategic agreement. Modern arguments happen in public spaces where winning means looking reasonable, not being right. Machiavelli would never engage in heated debates on social media or challenge people directly in meetings. He would agree with parts of their position, acknowledge their concerns, then guide the conversation toward his preferred outcome. This technique disarms opposition and makes you appear collaborative while you reshape the entire discussion. People trust those who validate their feelings, even when those same people are quietly steering them toward different conclusions. Rule 3. Create value before asking for anything. The biggest mistake people make in networking and relationship. Building is leading with their needs instead of leading with solutions. Machiavelli would study what each person in his network struggled with, then provide help without being asked and without mentioning what he might want in return. Debt psychology works because people feel uncomfortable owing favors. When you solve problems for others first, they actively look for ways to repay you. This gives you influence over their choices without making direct requests that could be refused. Rule 4. Control information flow in both directions. Modern power belongs to those who decide what others know and when they know it. Machiavelli would become the person people came to for updates, insights, and context about important situations. He would also be extremely careful about what information he shared and with whom. Information asymmetry creates dependence. When you know more than others about situations that affect them, they need your perspective to make good decisions. When you carefully manage what you reveal, you shape how they interpret events and what actions they consider taking. Rule 5. Build your reputation through other people's words. Self-promotion feels desperate and triggers skepticism. Machiavelli would never talk about his own accomplishments. Instead, he would create situations where other people praised his work, recommended his abilities, and told stories about his effectiveness. Third-party validation carries more weight than personal claims because it appears objective. People believe what they hear from neutral sources more than what they hear from the person who benefits from their belief. If you are ready to transform how you think about power and influence, subscribe to this channel now. The remaining 16 rules get significantly more advanced, and you will not want to miss the psychological tactics that most people never learn. Rule 6. Make yourself difficult to replace. Job security and relationship security come from becoming uniquely valuable, not just generally competent. Machiavelli would identify the specific problems that only he could solve, the connections that only he could facilitate, and the knowledge that only he possessed. This strategy works in every context. Romantic partners who make themselves irreplaceable through unique emotional support. Employees who develop specialized skills that companies cannot easily replicate. And friends who provide irreplaceable social value all enjoy security that others lack. Rule 7. Study patterns instead of listening to words. People lie constantly, but their behavior patterns reveal their true priorities, fears, and intentions. Machiavelli would pay attention to what people actually did when they faced pressure, needed help, or had to choose between competing interests. Behavioral analysis gives you predictive power. When you understand how someone typically responds to stress, opportunity, or conflict, you can anticipate their reactions and position yourself advantageously before they even realize they are about to make predictable choices. Rule 8. Never make enemies when you can make allies. Destroying. Opponents creates ongoing problems because defeated people often seek revenge, and other people worry they might be next. Machiavelli would turn potential enemies into supporters by finding ways to align their interests with his goals. This approach eliminates threats while expanding your support network. Former opponents who become allies are often your most loyal. Supporters because they understand the alternative and appreciate being included rather than excluded from your success. Rule 9. Perfect your timing above all other skills. The same action succeeds or fails based entirely on when you take it. Machiavelli would study the rhythms of every situation, organization, and relationship to understand when people were most receptive to his influence and when they were most vulnerable to his moves. Timing mastery separates amateur manipulators from expert power players. Knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to advance and when to retreat, when to reveal information and when to withhold it, determines whether your strategies create the results you want. Rule 10. Use scarcity to increase your perceived value. Availability reduces desirability in every context. Machiavelli would never be the person who always said yes to requests, always made time for meetings, or always responded immediately to messages. He would be helpful, but not constantly accessible. Scarcity psychology makes people want what they cannot easily have. When your time, attention, and assistance require effort to obtain, people value them more highly and work harder to maintain access to you. Rule 11. Master the power of strategic silence. Most people fear quiet moments in conversations and rush to fill them with words that weaken their position. Machiavelli would use silence as a tool for gathering information, creating psychological pressure and maintaining mysterious authority. Silence forces others to reveal more than they intended because they interpret your quiet attention as judgment or deep thought. They will explain themselves, justify their positions, and expose their insecurities while you simply listen and learn. Rule 12. Never explain your methods to anyone. Transparency about your strategies eliminates your strategic advantages. Machiavelli would produce results consistently, but never discuss the specific techniques he used to achieve them. He would let others speculate about his methods while keeping the actual systems private. Mystery preserves power because people cannot defend against tactics they do not understand. When you explain how you influence situations, you give others the knowledge they need to counter your approach or use it against you. Rule 13. Always have multiple options available. Dependence on single solutions creates vulnerability. Machiavelli would develop backup plans for every important situation and alternative relationships for every crucial connection. He would never put himself in positions where other people could control his outcomes by controlling his options. Option thinking prevents desperation and maintains negotiating power. When you have alternatives, you can walk away from bad deals, refuse unreasonable demands, and take calculated risks that people without options cannot afford. Rule 14. Use reciprocity psychology systematically. People feel obligated to return favors, match energy levels, and respond proportionally to how they are treated. Machiavelli would trigger these automatic responses by carefully calibrating his behavior to produce the reactions he wanted from others. Reciprocity works because it operates below conscious awareness. When you smile, people smile back. When you show interest, people become interesting. When you demonstrate respect, people behave respectfully. These responses happen automatically and give you significant influence over social dynamics. Rule 15. Become indispensable during crisis moments. Power shifts happen when normal systems break down and people need help solving urgent problems. Machiavelli would position himself as the person others turn to during emergencies, transitions, and high-stakes situations. Crisis leadership creates lasting loyalty because people remember who helped them when they were vulnerable. The relationships you build during difficult times often become your strongest long-term alliances because they are based on proven reliability rather than casual convenience. Rule 16. Control the narrative without obviously trying. Stories shape how people interpret events and decide what actions to take. Machiavelli would influence these stories by providing context, asking strategic questions, and highlighting specific details that supported his preferred interpretation of situations. Narrative control works through suggestion rather than argument. When you help people understand situations in ways that align with your interests, they make decisions that benefit you while believing they are thinking independently. Rule 17. Build systems that work without your constant attention. Power has limits because you can only be in one place at one time and can only directly influence the people you interact with. Machiavelli would create processes, relationships, and structures that advanced his goals even when he was not actively managing them. System thinking multiplies your effectiveness because it leverages other people's time and energy to produce outcomes you desire. The most powerful people create machines that work for them rather than working as machines themselves. Rule 18. Never take credit in ways that create resentment. Recognition can backfire when it makes other people feel unappreciated or forgotten. Machiavelli would accept praise gracefully, but always acknowledge the contributions of others, and share credit in ways that made people feel valued rather than used. Credit sharing builds loyalty because it shows people that working with you leads to recognition rather than exploitation. Teams and individuals who believe you will represent their contributions fairly are much more willing to support your initiatives and share information with you. Rule 19. Study your competition without becoming obsessed. Understanding what others are doing helps you anticipate their moves and identify opportunities they miss. Machiavelli would monitor his rivals carefully, but never let competitive thinking distract him from building his own advantages and pursuing his own goals. Competitor awareness prevents surprises and reveals gaps in the market for power and influence. When you know what others are trying to accomplish and how they are trying to accomplish it, you can position yourself in spaces they are not covering and develop capabilities they are not building. Rule 20. Maintain multiple identities for different contexts. The same personality does not work equally well in every situation. Machiavelli would adjust his communication style, energy level, and apparent priorities based on what each environment and relationship required while maintaining core consistency in his actual values. and goals. Context. Switching allows you to connect with different types of people and succeed in different types of situations. Professional settings, social gatherings, and family interactions all reward different behaviors, and flexible people navigate these differences more successfully than rigid people. Rule 21. Leave before people want you to go. Endings determine how people remember entire experiences. Machiavelli would exit conversations, meetings, relationships, and situations while they were still positive, rather than staying until problems developed or enthusiasm faded. Strategic departure preserves good impressions and creates desire for future interactions. People remember how things end more than how they begin, and leaving people wanting more ensures they will welcome you back when you decide to return. Machiavelli understood that real power works quietly, builds slowly, and lasts longer than force or manipulation. These 21 rules give you the framework for developing that kind of sustainable influence in any situation you encounter.